And it started for me. It started when I was used to be a helicopter pilot in the Royal Netherlands Air Force, flying the attack helicopters. And just before my second deployment, mission to Afghanistan, I got pain in my back. I had a hernia, and I was unable to fly. I was unable to do the outdoor sports I used to do, and couldn't party anymore. And so I was only laying on the couch and was unable to do what I used to do. And that was actually a moment for me, a wake-up call, like, what am I doing in life? And if I cannot be that tough pilot anymore, who am I? So that started a search. I started to become interested in like, what's going on, what's life about, who am I? And that's how I ended up doing all kinds of courses and reading books about personal development and about spiritual development. And that got my interest. And then moving on towards the experience of unity, you see that at a certain moment, after about 7 years, I've read a lot of books, done a lot of courses, saw a lot of stuff on the internet, and I was kind of arrogant, like, I know what it's all about. So I wrote a book about personal development. And actually, looking back, I was talking about ego improvement. Mm-hmm. But that's hindsight, as they call it, I believe. Anyway, so the book was finally published, and after the book was published, I started to really get into non-duality. I got in contact about non-duality, and I didn't know what it was. I've done a lot of stuff within the spiritual realms, but I didn't know what non-duality was. And I was an eager person. I wanted to learn and I wanted to understand. Especially my ego wanted to understand, understand it, control it, and be the enlightened person, right? So I was really eager to get to know this. And I started to read books about non-duality, to watch a lot of videos on the internet about non-duality. And I got really frustrated because somehow, I mean, normally I was able to do anything, right? Becoming a pilot for the Air Force is something that only a few people actually do. So usually everything I wanted to do kind of worked. But this non-duality, I was unable to grasp it with my mind, and it started to make me crazy. Not crazy like crazy, but crazy like frustrated. And so finally I saw on the TV, I saw a television show of a Dutch philosopher who was trying to understand non-duality. Well, obviously it didn't work. Until at the end, she went to a ayahuasca ceremony. And after the ayahuasca ceremony, at the end of the TV show, she said, all right, now I understand, now I know what it is, but I cannot tell you. I'm unable to tell you. I'm speechless. I don't know how to put it in words. And at that moment for me, it was like the inner impulse, like, all right, that's what I got to do then. Because she had exactly the same problem as I had. And ayahuasca helped her. So that's what I did. I turned to ayahuasca. And ayahuasca opened a completely new realm of altered states of consciousness, higher states of consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. And I had no idea that those states were possible. I mean, I've done Vipassana retreats and whatever, doing the meditations, trying to real hard to get there, didn't work for me. I was stuck in my head, really stuck in my head, and I was trying and didn't work. And then in ayahuasca, it was like it paralyzed my mind. My rational mind was almost like it was turned down and eventually turned off. So then the consciousness just went out of my body. I was like a free consciousness in like a dream world where anything was possible. And I really enjoyed what was going on there until at a certain moment I realized, wait a minute, I wanted to know about non-duality. and until that time I was only playing out there, every desire just suddenly existed and happened and felt like real. So I mean, any desire, if you wanted to fly, you could fly. If you wanted to stand on the highest mountain, you could stand on the highest mountains. Your wildest sexual fantasies came true and felt more real than ever. Fantastic experience. But suddenly I realized, wait a minute, I was here for non-duality. And now I still don't know what it is. And then I started to do less and less and less. And that's when it got more and more interesting. Because if you take, for example, ayahuasca, you can get an immense amount of experiences in those altered states of consciousness. You can get lost in there forever. Not lost as in that you don't come back, but lost as in you can do like 100 or even 1,000 ayahuasca ceremonies and still have the feeling that you can experience more and more. You can, because it's limitless. You can always find new experiences. But there's one experiences that is by far the most amazing experience that a human being is capable of, and that's when the experience of being a human, being a person, being a self, like a personal self, dissolves. And that's what happened when I started doing less and less. First I tried to do nothing, that doesn't work, but finally when even the trying to do nothing faded away, I melted or something into existence. So existence didn't stop, but the experience of a person disappeared. And
could you call that a kind of surrender?
A kind of, yes. Yes, actually, if you don't surrender, you are absolutely unable to get that experience. Yeah, the self has to, the person, the self, the I, has to step down, or as Osho said, get out of your own way. Yeah.
Could you also say that some people would, in fact, say it is not even an experience anymore because there is not a self that has an experience.
Who is experiencing? It's beyond experience. It's being. It's just pure being. There's nothing else than that what exists, and that's beyond words. Yeah.
And you could say then that in a way there's not a self that experiences it.
And not an individual person self.
No.
But some people call the upper reality, like the that what cannot be named, they call that the self with the capital S. And in that case you could say there's only the self.
Or awareness.
Or awareness, whatever name you...
consciousness.
Yeah, I call it the wonder of existence, because I truly think it's a miracle that it exists. So perhaps wonder is not the correct translation in this case. So let's say I call mystery. It the mystery or the miracle of existence. That's maybe the best description. Yeah, there's absolutely no word you can ever label it. It's indescribable, unfathomable. Yeah, and the most fascinating thing you can ever. Well, I do have to say experience then. Yeah, because words just don't
cover it.
No.
Yeah. And now you described it as a experience of unity, and at some point, because then it is an experience, it ends. But you talk about it as a total transformation. Can you speak about that?
Yes. Yeah, those are two different things, because the experience of unity, or the mystical experience, or the peak experience, as Maslow called it, is an experience that comes and goes. It has a beginning and an end. So that's not non-duality. But the experience itself is a unbelievable, valuable experience that can help to start seeing that what is that was always there, that's what now here, and that's what's always will be. And that's that thing what cannot be named.
What is it that keeps us from experiencing that so-called state? What is covering it up?
Yes, it's a big question. The way I see it is that a miracle of existence, within the miracle of existence, also exists the whole world the world of duality. Let's put it that way. And within the world of duality, it appears that there are an enormous amount of verschijningsvormen. Hoe zeg je dat?
Appearances.
Appearances. And all those things that appear are connected with one another, and they influence one another, and
the forms.
Yeah, so the form is doing like what I call the cosmic dance. Like it's one big giant energy thing that's doing its dance. And all those appearances, they are all unique and special, but a special kind of appearance is the human form. And the human form, somehow in the human form, is a state of consciousness, a limited state of a personal consciousness that has a experience that it's a person, a separate person, that you are different from me and I'm different from you. You're sitting over there, I'm sitting over here, so it appears to be different. While in reality we know it's not. We know in reality there's only the miracle of existence, but it appears as if there's separation. Just as is that it appears that there's good and bad, light and dark, whatever. And so this makes the experience of the whole world of duality and the experience of interaction and the experience of free will can only exist because of this limiting thing within the human being that limit the consciousness to a experience of being a person. So it's, on one hand, you could say it's a lot of people in spirituality say it's a bad thing because it limits, right? The human, it's limiting the real state of expanded consciousness that's always there. But I hope that people can also see the value of it, because you can have fantastic experiences in this. We are right in the middle of it. And this is where we have to see it. If you can only see it in during a short, brief moment of mystical experience, then you will always long to be there. And then you push away the experience of the world of duality as we know it, as we play it right now. And it's getting more and more fun. You can start to more enjoy life when you can actually see the value of this fantastic experience that we're having.
And that's the human experience.
The human experience, yes. And the human experience has advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah. Because some people, when they become aware of non-duality, they think about it and they become very rational about it, and they may think that they need to escape the human experience and go to a better place.
Yes.
Right? And you would say that's a mistake.
Yes, because you turn away the human experience. And no matter what you do, if you, if you judge or disapprove of a part of your experience, there is, in a way, an inner cramp that doesn't like a part of what's happening. And as soon as there's a dislike or a disapproval of something that's happening, then there's the human that resists the cosmic dance, and that's always ending up in a less nice experience, let's put it that way.
You could also say that then becomes duality and becomes a form of suffering, right? If you reject the
more you reject, the more you suffer. Yes.
Could you say that in your experience, the transformation was also about a deep acceptance of all that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All that is and all that happens. because it's not a stable thing. It's always, it's yes, there's only the one thing, and that will always be there. There's nothing else. So that appears to be stable, but within it, there's the cosmic dance that's always changing. So you can never aim for a steady state where there's only one thing and that stays for forever. It's just the appearance always changes. The experience is always changing. There's never an experience that will stay forever.
There's nothing fixed.
No, and you don't want that. That will be boring.
Yeah.
So there's still the experience of being Peter, and in the meantime there's an inner knowing that in reality I'm the miracle of existence.
And would you say, and this is where some people would say, oh, but Peter, that's just a concept. That's just a belief that you have. That's how they would interpret it. But for you, this is not a belief and this is not a concept.
For me, this is an enormous shift in my life. This is the biggest liberation I've ever experienced. This is something beyond my imagination. And I'm talking now about the experience of unity. And after the experience of unity, like right now, like when I'm sitting here, I'm not constantly in an experience of unity. Otherwise, Peter could not function within the world of duality. So I'm glad that Peter can still has the experience of being Peter. So he can play and enjoy and you know, have fun and make love and enjoy food and taste and colors and form and, you know, enjoy the world. You need the experience of being a person to be able to experience that. When I'm completely in a experience of unity, there's no Peter, there's no body, there's only that what you cannot name.
But when you describe that you are present in the world as a person, but you would probably say, even while that is so, there is no longer the sense of separation. How would you describe that?
Well, I would actually say there's still the experience of separation, but there's an inner knowing that the separation is an illusion. So I play with the feeling that we are separated, which makes it possible to have all kinds of interactions, like this talk, for example. And at the same time, I know it's just an illusion. So I don't have to worry about it. So nothing can go wrong. There are no mistakes. And there's nothing I lack, for example. There's nothing I have to fear. All that stuff is from knowing that everything is the cosmic dance that's just doing its thing. And yet at the same time, from the experience of being a person, I can play. I have the feeling that I can choose and do stuff and taste stuff, and that's all just within the playfulness experience of being a person in this marvelous world. And when Peter, after such an experience, when Peter gets back in the normal world, obviously he gets brainwashed back towards his old condition. Well, first of all, Peter knows now, there's a strong inner knowing that everything is the miracle of existence. It's impossible to forget that. Once you know something doesn't exist, you know it. Once you know Santa Claus doesn't exist, you cannot try to forget that and know it. Yeah. But at the same time, the experience of freedom and effortlessness and the experience of deep inner peace, the more I get brainwashed back into my old habits, the less the inner peace becomes. So sometimes the worry starts to get in there again, and the experience of Peter becomes more like being a person, stronger of being a person. And then it actually helps me to again have such a mystical experience, because suddenly everything is clear again, and it feels like I'm back in the flow and everything is clear and fantastic, and then it suddenly fades away, and then it comes back.